thank you very much for joining me today for our second lockdown lessons podcast. And today I'm joined by some very talented lecturers from the creative department team. So we've got Christina Rad, John Johansson and Sean Chandler. So guys, do you want to just quickly do a round table on who you are and what your background is and what you've which area you teach in? So Christina, do you want to go first?
Okay. Right. So I'm a film and media lecturer. My background is a robot background, as you can see. No, I'm joking. I teach film and media for the BTEC at the Film Foundation degree.
Brilliant. Sean, do you want to go next?
I'm Sean Chandler. I teach film and media on the BTEC level 3 courses and a foundation degree in film. My background is mainly film theory and analysis.
Brilliant. John, what about you?
I'm John Johansson. I'm teaching on product design foundation degree and our level 3 design course. And I did the maths the other day. I think my service comes in at about 10, 11 years with the college, which I'm too young. I'm too young for that number to be real.
That is a long time. You should get to know for that.
I'm 15 years.
I am like Sean as well.
Wow.
Yeah, we deserve a little prize,
veterans,
don't we, Christina?
College veterans.
Medals all around.
Yeah. So thanks for joining me today. And we're going to kind of get some insight into what you've been up to over the last 6-7 months. Starting off with looking at how you made that shift originally back in March, is a long time ago now, into remote delivery, particularly in your areas. Being in the creative department, it's very hands-on. So how did you make that initial shift? And did you need any training, or what work was involved in order to get you into that remote delivery mode back in March? Sean, do you want to go first?
The one benefit for us is that we've been paperless for quite a number of years anyway. So all of our students would submit work online and we'd upload all class materials. We've been doing that for years anyway. And then switching to Teams took some getting used to, didn't it, Christina?
Yeah.
Luckily, by that time, a lot of our especially degree students had submitted their work. So it was really just supporting them through Teams calls and video calling. And our level 3s, their final project was cancelled. So again, it was just sort of supporting them and sending them tasks, research prep for year 2. And again, discussions on Teams and calls, wasn't it really? Just to keep them sort of engaged, even though they weren't really submitting work.
It wasn't a proper teaching like this year. It was more because everything was cancelled. So we started just communicating with them, so it was a bit of a warm up, but nothing with what was coming in September.
Yeah, it was different.
And we knew the students before, so it was easy. So it wasn't particularly challenging. It was, just getting used to just talk through a screen, I think.
What about you, John? Did you have to? Yours is particularly hands-on, your area.
Yeah, we were just getting into the end of the year where they were doing their big projects. So there was lots of making involved, which all had to be sort of rehashed. I'd say the worst part for it was, which we haven't found quite so much with our first years this year, because they've already experienced the start of lockdown, a bit of remote teaching. But it was when you'd go on a video chat with the students, and every scene was sort of a darkened bedroom with the lights coming through the curtains, and they were just so sad because they'd missed that kind of the socializing experience.
Yeah, they did.
But it was just the experience for the students that they'd had that kind of social taken away from them.
Definitely.
So you've been through that process of just doing remote for a few months, and then came September and we were shifting back to a bit more of a blended approach, although it was kind of changing from day-to-day basis. What was that like in terms of making that shift in terms of planning and your delivery models? Was there any particular models that you were using that have worked or not worked? How have you done that?
I found it really challenging, and just the first encounter for me, I think, was a disaster, my first lesson. I could not know who was engaged. I couldn't see their faces. People were with mics on and off. I think it improved. Next time I decide to record myself, and I said every lesson I record myself, then I get in touch. And then I realized that they don't like you to start a lesson with a recording of yourself. That doesn't make sense because you should be there. So the recordings are useful for a particular times and places, but they are desperately to contact, if not face to face, they just want the connection. So I understood that no, forget about recordings. They want to be acknowledged. And it's really hard when you have 26 students. And I know you have to say hello to everybody, but sometimes you don't know who is there, who is speaking. At the beginning, you don't know them. And then you said, put the mics off, and then you're speaking on your own. So you don't know, you can't catch up the nonverbal clues. So that made me feel very frustrated. I'm getting used to it now. So I think for me, it was a challenge. I'm getting better, Shan. I'm getting better.
Yeah. But I will say, Christina, that even though we did the whole induction with that group, the online etiquette, they did all this, but they did all the online etiquette sessions, and we did a trial run through in class. But I think no matter how much you tell them, it's not until you actually do the proper online delivery that you just this trial and error for the first instance. But it's improved, hasn't it? Definitely.
Yes.
But
and as you say,
have to try it out.
The same for me. I wasn't worried about the technology, so I was like, I know how to use Team. I was, and the moment of the truth, nothing worked. My presentation, and I was thinking that was the part I was confident of. And I realized again that it was me doing that without thinking, just having the chat on the side, having my eyes on the chat and looking at who is paying. And as John said once when we spoke, you need to be a YouTuber, really. That's your skill. You cannot communicate as if you were in the lesson. It's a very different communication, isn't it, John?
Well, it's, what was it, Field Marshal Haig that said a battle plan never survives contact with the enemy. A lesson plan doesn't survive contact with students. So like you said, we've learned how to use all this stuff, but when you put it on the screen and all your students are shy, so you've just got a wall of initials and you spend 10 minutes explaining something in loads of detail, and then you go, does that make sense? And you get nothing.
Yes, tumbleweed.
And all you're waiting for is that one person on mute and go, I got it. Someone to put in the chat, yes. And it's just thrown me that bone. But I found it just as bad when we went back into lessons because we had our inductions on site. Because again, you're getting used to new faces. You know, I can't help myself. I'll drop a couple of dad jokes in just to see where the humor is in the class. And because they're wearing the masks as well, it's almost as bad in person now.
That's true.
Because you can only see half their face. And then we had the registers where you couldn't see their faces because they hadn't been enrolled with their pictures yet. So you just had a name and an initial, and as sort of a visual person myself, it was really hard to get used to my classes, and it took a lot longer than it did in previous years.
So is engagement the hardest thing?
Checking they're engaged, but they've all been really good. But it's that just letting you know they get it that is really important, that you can't, it's really hard to get that because they're really shy as well. They don't want to put their cameras on. They want to have their mics off. Like I said, I'll have a wall of initials and come on, anyone. I'm not even asking a question, what is this or what is that? It's just to check they're still there more than anything.
So have you found anything that has helped engage them in that way that you can quickly check in to see if they're grasping what you're talking about?
The chat is normally somewhere they're more confident to just put a yes or something like that for quiet ones. So I think in the group sessions, the quiet students find it easier to kind of hide away. But on the flip side, when you do one-to-one tutorials, Teams is fantastic. Because you'll have your classroom normally and you'd have all 16 to 20 year students in there. And you'd sit down one-to-one with a student and somebody messing around. So you've got to stop talking to them and deal with that. Or someone will come in and ask for something and you'll get distracted. If I'm doing a one-to-one with a student on Teams, that is literally my focus and their focus. And they're so much happier to open up. Students we've had for years through level 3 that have been like an absolute mouse. And fine, I've spoken most to them in the last 2 months than I have in the last 3 years. It's absolutely crazy.
That's really interesting.
Yes, I agree with the one-to-one. You're asking about what have you found strategies, and I am finding that I'm exploring with the big group. The main thing for me is to put them in breakout groups first. So first I break them out in groups. So what I do now is I do a general instruction with everybody together, a check-in, as short as possible. Everything is laid out really clearly, color-coded, and then I put them in groups that are already, they decide who do they want to work with, and they work in their groups, in their breakout groups, and they can dip in and out all the time, because they want to do the peer as well, the peer learning. And if you just with them for 3 or 4 hours and they don't even have the chance to talk with their friends, they get exhausted. Yeah. So I said, feel free to go and join in. And then in the meantime, I do one-to-ones. So I said, I do an individual, I ask them if they want to do it. And I phone them. So I think that's the way of managing my class at the moment. And I am happy with that. So it's working. The breakout groups are being, a blessing, I would say. And leave them working. And while I go and check, literally one by one or group by group, if they are doing all right.
So. I suppose that's kind of understandable, considering they're brand new to each other, brand new to the college, brand new to this whole way of teaching and learning. It's going to take quite some time for them to get comfortable with you and get comfortable with everybody else and build that confidence.
And make little groups of friends as well. Like you'd get in the classroom, they'd sit together and sort of, then they all go for lunch together and they get to meet each other. I set up, because we always tell our students to, on Messenger or whatever they're using, to make a class group chat. So in the first session, we get them all to sort of, pass a bit of paper around so they can log in a group. I set it up on Teams as a class group, but kept myself in there. And I said, look, I'm going to use this for, if there's any information, I'll drop it in there. But if you guys want to have a meme war or just chat stuff or talk about the latest films that have come out, go for it. But if there's a question, just sort of tag me and I can pop back in. And I found this has saved me loads of time because they answer their own questions now. So where I'd get an email, oh, John, what are we doing tomorrow? Or did we have to be in for this lesson? Someone will ask it and someone else in the group will answer it. I've saved myself like 100 emails a week with this.
Yeah.
And I've just got to check in and go, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. They do it.
So if you had to change quite a lot in terms of your assessment and feedback approaches because of this change to more of a blended, now we're going back to remote as well. I mean, when I spoke to some staff, the frequency of feedback is increased just to kind of help build that rapport and relationship as well and keep that student engaged. Have you had to do that as well?
I found it's the best feedback I've given in years because, again, it's focused. It's all typed up. A lot less of it is verbal. And when it is on a one-to-one chat, I'll normally be typing it on the side as well. So they've got it as a checklist of things to do, which they are actually referring to, which is amazing because it's in their chat. John said, I got to do this, this, and this. So they'll add that to their work. So that's helped. Another big thing that I found Teams has massively helped is sort of hybrid sessions. So whereas you'd have, I've got a Thursday morning session tomorrow, if I were to do it on site and I get those 2 obligatory messages, can't come in because I'm not well, or the train's cancelled or whatever. If I'm introducing a new project brief, they'd normally miss out. I'd have to then do it again with them or catch them up afterwards. I get them to just log in on Teams. So I'll have my camera set up my laptop while I'm presenting on site. It will be like they're watching my lesson at the same time. And even if they're dying of cold or flu or something, they have their camera off, their mic off. They can be in bed with a tissue stuck at each nostril and just sort of, yeah, cool, I get it. And when it's done, log off. But it means I don't have to do it again. And if there's any questions, because if I've missed something, because we always do, when a student asks a question, oh yeah, I didn't think of that. They don't miss out on that then. And it feels you're not rushed when you go over the project brief again with them individually. So that's been really useful until the Wi-Fi went down the other day and I didn't have half my class. So that sucked.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's bound to happen at some point, though. I think we've been pretty lucky up until now. What about Christine and Sian? Have you had to? You've mentioned like your course has completely changed in some respects. At the end of last year, some things didn't get to happen. Is that happening again?
A bit.
We've completely changed to Teams now. And the good thing about the assessment and feedback is, when we make a lesson in a page and we distribute it to their folders, that's been so good because they're not having to save stuff in different places.
Yeah.
And I can easily go into the lesson that I've done with them and they check that they've filled it out.
Yeah.
That's so much easier.
Yeah.
Isn't it, Christina?
Yeah, that's much better, isn't it? I mean, in terms of the practical stuff that we couldn't do it, we have to modify some assessments. I'm thinking of the Film Foundation degree, for example, Shan, that they couldn't use the camera, the equipment, they couldn't do any teamwork. So the assessment was changing my module we changed it last minute to do everything on their phones about the lockdown, a film about the lockdowns on their phones, having the tools. And it was amazing because it was one of the best films I had, from Megan. They did amazing stuff on their own. So I'm incorporating that now, the using of the phone as a tool that we always say, use the phone. But now that we are away, they don't have a camera and I'm with them for hours. I've incorporated activities using their phones to break out the monotony of being on the screen. So they move away. And I've done some things with sound or editing and filming things on their phones, editing. And that's been really good. I mean, I really enjoy the fact of I can move them away from the screens and they go and get back the films just with their phones. The funny thing is some of them were saying, well, we only have a phone. That's not a good camera, whatever. And I was like saying, that's the whole point. Look at my phone. It's cracked. It's old. It's cheap. And it doesn't matter. I can still create it. So that's not the point, isn't it? So I think I really enjoy the activities on their phones online. It's been really, really good.
Yeah, I really like that approach that you don't have to do everything online. You can set them work to do offline and then they just come back to you once they've done whatever you've set them to do. I think that sometimes people just feel the pressure that you have to kind of replicate your whole timetable in this kind of format that you're talking at them at the whole time. And I don't think that doesn't work. It's not good for the teacher. It's not good for the learners, but doing little challenges or little projects like that, it develops lots of new skills, I think, for them too. In terms of you've already mentioned quite a few positives through this horrible time that we're going through at the moment. And do you think some of these positives that you've kind of picked up are something that you're going to pursue and kind of still keep incorporating into your delivery, even when this is all stopped? And what are those?
I think for me, it's definitely just to put the whole lesson available with all the links so that if anything happened, that's what I found better. I found it's worked much, much better. So that for me, I'm going to put the whole lesson, all the links. I don't really use PowerPoint as much anymore. I just kind of I plan my lesson on the page of OneNote. I found it so much easier and better for the students.
Yeah. The OneNote, I've been doing the same. So less PowerPoints and just straight into OneNote. So everything lays out. They don't have to click so many and get lost as they would. But the other thing I find is that if we go back to normal, I don't think we could go back to normal again because we've learned so many lessons. And it's just finding the balance between the blended learning. I do strongly believe that we need the face-to-face and the students desperately need that. But the balance, so we can't just teach as we used to be teaching, Jan, for hours, 6 hours in a group where half of the time was messing about, literally. So when you have a couple of hours online, is very focused on what you need to do, or 3 hours. There's no time of messing about. And
it's really focused.
It's really, so that's good. So it's just looking at the timetables, how can we reduce the amount of or have a balance between the being online and being face to face would be for me the question to answer for next time, because you are more efficient in certain way. At the same time, you need a contact. You do need the face to face with them. So
yeah, an hour of teaching is a very different amount of time now. I did my session this morning in an hour and 20 minutes, and it's supposed to be 3 hours. And they all did their presentations. We did feedback. They all feedback to each other. It was only a little group, but it was an hour and 20 minutes. And that would have lasted 3 hours because, can I go get something to eat? Can we go for a break? There was no need for that because it was just so focused. There was no waiting for people turning up late because they were just online. But I do agree the balance is the biggest part of it, because we encourage our students to get into the habit of presenting for when you get to university level. And again, our quieter students have given the best presentations they've given in their career with us. And it's because it's just them talking to their camera. When we have presentations, they will be on. I'll make sure my camera's on, so they've got that nodding sort of approving sort of thing. Like I said, is we're not getting that feedback from the students. Yeah. So I don't want them to have that. Even if I'm muted, it'll just be that they'll make a point and I'll sort of, yeah, that's right. And I'll make sure everyone else has got their cameras off. So they're just talking. But yeah, if we then drop them from just having done that into an auditorium of 60, 70 other students, they are not going to know what's hit them. But yeah, so sort of I'm trying to phase them from the initial ones online where it's not so bad. They know there's 20 people listening to them. And then we're going to do some actually in the lesson later on in the year when we can get back in. And then they'll do it in front of the first and second years and we'll build them up to it. So I think that's nice. But if it was just all online, they wouldn't get that kind of interaction.
I suppose it's good skills to learn, isn't it? Because a lot of interviews now happen in this kind of format. So yeah, they get used to being able to do that and come across well, because it is a very different skill. It is like being a TV presenter. You kind of got to over exaggerate movements and facial expressions, don't you? So yeah, it's very different, but it's not a wasted skill by any means.
I jokingly end lessons with, and if you enjoyed that, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell.
But down here.
Because it's how it feels. And if you enjoyed my content, but I've done tutorials for kind of marker rendering and sketching. I've got my webcam set up on a tripod and it feels like I'm Neil Buchanan on Art Attack, because you're trying to work out better ways to do it. But I think touching on something Christina said earlier, sort of doing the tasks with the students. But no, it is important that they understand this is our first attempt at this as well. So I think in my first lesson with most of my classes, I said, this is all new to me as well. So if something doesn't work for you, don't panic. I'm not going to freak out. Oh, I was late because of my internet connection, or I couldn't get Teams to connect because I was using my wrong account. It's fine. I'm not going to go off, because chances are next week something will go wrong for me. And I'd really like you to be patient with me about that. And they've all been great because I've leveled with them. You know, the first years are in college now. So they're used to the teacher is always right. I've gone, no, we're fallible. We're getting used to this as well.
Yeah, I am like that to say. I mean, the first yeah, my students are, the microphone is off, Christina. The microphone is like, I'm like, yeah, oops. You know, I've done it so many times. Like, yeah, I know. Sorry.
They are understanding though, aren't they? And like you said, vice versa. We understand with their technical difficulties, and they have all been really, really understanding, all the groups, I would say.
Yeah.
It's really nice that you're taking that more of a, like, we're learning together approach.
Yeah.
Because they'll come up with tricks for us as well. They will find ways to break the system. They're students. Like, that is kind of the point. They're extreme problem solvers. We'll give them a task that we think we've made it easy for them to achieve the criteria for the project. They will find a way to complicate it because it's different from the way we've told them to do it. But they think they've come up with some clever hack. But yeah, they'll find it in Teams and I'll be ready with my notepad.
That's good. You're learning from them too.
Every day's a school day, quite literally.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining me today, guys. And yeah, it'll be great to share this with everybody. I think everyone will learn a lot. And I think from speaking to other people, the thing that's coming out from it is that don't expect everything to work and everything isn't perfect, and just kind of go with the flow a bit more. And Yeah, and everyone will get there eventually.
I think that we're sort of setting the precedent with what we're doing is the important bit. Everyone's sort of been left to their own sectors to get on with it. If we'd been coming with a set of very strict rules, you must use Teams like this and you must do that. Well, it's not going to work for different areas. Some courses work better online. And we're, to sound really cheesy, but we're sort of trailblazing what is going to work, and we're finding the things that do and don't work.
But that's a learning process. That's the way you learn, isn't it? You've got to try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Just try something else. Oh, well, thanks for joining me. And next week we'll be doing another department. Not sure which one yet, but you guys have been the creative team. So thanks very much. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.